I'd like to say a big warm welcome to everybody to today's virtual company showroom with Dotphoton. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to look at their websites. I had a look and I see that they're a team of physicists, computer scientists, entrepreneurs, and creatives based out of Switzerland. And they speak 13 languages and enjoy challenging the status quo. And they value a personal approach, a sense of humor, and also fondue, which I quite like. I'm delighted to introduce you to our two speakers today from Dotphoton. We have Eugenia Balysheva, who is the co-founder and CEO of Dotphoton, and also Christoph Clausen, who is the chief software architect. So I'm going to hand over to them so they can tell you more about the company and the positions that are currently open within Dotphoton. So thank you, Eugenia and Christoph. Please take it away.
My name is Eugenia. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Dotphoton, about what we do, about what kind of products we develop. And as Rachel mentioned, we do hire now and hopefully going to hire even more in the future. The general takeaway, if you'd like what you hear, then you can always follow us. So even if there is no opportunity right now, probably there'll be something open in the future, in the nearest future. What does Dotphoton do? So we do image compression in a nutshell, but why it matters? If you look, we do image compression for various applications, but especially for applications which use AI-based image processing, which happens to be a pretty big problem. Because if you look in the market of the image sensors, so images are everywhere, and wherever you see them through the microscope, through a satellite, through a smartphone camera, we do acquire a lot of image data, and the images become better. More and more of them are raw images, and data volume is growing exponentially. So at the same time, the amount of storage solutions somehow around 2011 reached a plateau, and actually storage is very expensive, so we can have a separate, very long conversation about how much it really costs, and it costs a lot. So, and this is why we ended up, not we as a company, but we as people, we ended up with such a thing that we have innovation, all kind of AI-based processing, fantastic algorithms that can help to detect rare cases of cancer, find the right treatment algorithm to help us with disaster management, or drive cars by themselves on one side, and on the amount of data that they have to process, that they need to acquire, that they need to store in order to be robust and reliable. And these two things unfortunately not much. So basically, proper AI is hardly scalable today to the real life environment. So if you hear it, that and there are plenty of news of the kind, how an algorithm can recognize some cancer cells, how an algorithm can do some fantastic things that humans do. It is most probably true, but what they don't mention that it works in a lab. So with the limited amount of data sets, once we reach hospital requirements, industrial sizes, then the problems begin. And this is the problems that Dotphoton tries to address with the technology. So why Dotphoton? What's about the company? When basically, as Rachel mentioned, we have Christoph present here, my co-founder Bruno. They're both quantum physicists, and they realized through the research the importance of the sensor-specific noise and the amount of information that the modern sensors contain, and the amount of noise that these modern sensors contain. I'll actually make my presentation a little bit shorter, so if you have technical questions, I would like Christoph to answer them, because I'm not a technical co-founder. With this, so this is one part of the information, right? And then, as I mentioned, this image data is very, very expensive to transmit, is very slow to transmit, is very expensive to store, and not sustainable. Data centers, creates a huge carbon footprint. So basically, with Dotphoton, we looked at the image which is called raw data. I'm sure as scientists, you guys familiar with the concept. So that's where you record everything. But unfortunately, together with the raw data, you record quite a lot of noise. And Dotphoton's innovation is separating the signal from the noise correctly and compressing the signal in a lossless way and the noise in a lossy way, where it can be used and applied. So we work with these fields mostly right now. So it's biomedical, light sheet microscopy, digital pathology, drug development, it's Earth observation, satellites and drone image data. Also it's machine vision, so everything in production lines. There are plenty of cameras now. It's called Industry 4.0, so cameras all around. And obviously autonomous vehicles. There are around 26 image sensors on a hopefully a future self-driving car. And well, they will have to, they do produce a lot of data, which should be transferred somehow and stored somehow. What's our innovations about? Well, we provide very high compression ratios, up to 10:1. At the same time, the compression ratio is combined with the highest processing speed. It's very, very fast compression. And this is the first technology which is developed for AI-based image analysis. Usually, we actually obviously use image compression technologies every day through JPEG files, for example, even in, our daily lives. And all these technologies, they were developed with human eyes in as the main judge, for how good the compression is. So how did it look for our eyes? But it's not at all the same for the machine. And this is why these technologies are not really suitable for modern machine vision, because they create a lot of artifacts which are not seen by the human eye, but will be seen by the machine and would create a lot of, false knowledge, false negative, false positive results, only based on the artifacts, which again, with applications that I mentioned, Earth observation, biomedical, which are very critical, you cannot really allow mistakes happen due to the compression. What how we call it metrologically accurate compression. Where does it stand? So in compression world, there's normally, it's black and white, so it's either lossy or either lossless. We are neither. Dotphoton technology combines the speed and the flexibility of lossy formats and the reliability and the quality of lossless formats. So this is why we call it better than lossless, because it knows how to do an additional things. It knows how to embed the noise model of a sensor, and this comes up very handy in the future image processing. For example, it brings interoperability to the data. Let's say if you have a hospital and you have today 2 microscopes, one will be coming from Zeiss microscope from Zeiss and another one from Leica. The problem would be that you, as a data scientist, will have to spend around 80% of your time trying to homogenize the data and prepare it for analysis, because it comes from different sources. If both Zeiss and Leica would use the Dotphoton technology, then you would need to spend so much time on data preparation. You can just go ahead and start analyzing the data straight away because of this embedded noise model. As I mentioned, Christoph, hopefully I can answer if you do have technical questions afterwards, this one, but our technology uses a set of very particular patented inventions from the company. When we have to describe it to, very, very fast, to say, well, actually we bring physics to compression, to the image compression. Normally image compression is the field of computer science. Here there are a lot of physics approaches and methods and understandings that come actually from physics and from quantum physics that allow us to achieve this very, very high compression ratios. But the technology is not everything. Obviously, technology needs to package them, in the products. So our products are very flexible to be integrated, actually. So it can be either on the camera or on the microscope or satellite or a car, or it can be purely software solution, which can be installed in the computer or on the cloud. So it's very flexible to integrate and therefore to use. But the closer we are to the image sensor, the better the compression works and the faster it is. So this is why we work a lot with camera manufacturers, because this way we can solve many problems. Our big ambition is to solve 3 big problems with one solution. So if you look at the market today, and for example, if you have problems with storage, what you're going to do, you're going to buy more servers, or you're going to buy more cloud space. If you have a problem with transmission, you're going to invest in faster computers, faster drivers, and look on your IT infrastructure. If you have a lot of data and you have to, I don't know, track it or trace it or bring some work with the data. We have some industrial data platforms, like here is the Miro, probably a lot of people in biomedical know, but there are obviously many more private platforms right now. With the use of the Dotphoton technology, you can tackle and address all of these problems at the same time. We have a flagship product. Our flagship product is called JETRO. JETRO is a compression software, which is widely used now in the biomedical sector. We have labs, well, not one because in CERN, so one is not far from you, for example, Wies in Geneva, in Biotech Center. They produce a lot of image data, and it turned into a roadblock for many of them. For example, as a facility, sometimes you can acquire data, but you cannot send it. And for example, when we look at the competition in this sector, our competition for the transfer at DHL courier. So because this is how images are being sent today, so on the hard drives through an express post. This doesn't allow them to do a lot of nice things that these guys do in the research. Here we mentioned only a few of our partners. We work with microscope manufacturers on one side, and on the other side with microscope users. So here just to mention a few. Why people choose it, why people work with a small company or a small startup in Switzerland? Well, because of the performance. If you look at different applications, JETRO has significantly higher compression ratio and has a significantly higher speed than any other compression solution in the market today. Additionally, what it allows, because compression itself, you need to look at the benefits it creates to people. And compression, it allows to reduce the costs, and the cost of the storage is a part of the cost of the project or a grant they get. So the more money they can liberate, the more they can invest in actual research or people or additional equipment and so on. They can transfer data faster, which is very important because we speak about hours and days of data transfer. So here a dramatic change can be described too. Additionally, more and more companies do care about CO2 emissions, and the reduction of image data volume allows you to significantly reduce the CO2 impact. And what I mentioned in the beginning, when all these applications, they do start to use AI, just in the very, very beginning, but they need to have a traceable data. They need to embed metadata in the images. They need to have it traceable, so they know where and how it was acquired, and the metadata is indeed correct. It's very important for right performance of an algorithm. And that's an additional advantage of using JETRO for them. CO2 impact emissions are very important, obviously, but we will focus on some other impactful fields. So we work on the standardization bodies. My co-founder Bruno is a part of a committee which works on standards for image data, which is going to be analyzed by AI in hospital environment. This is a joint group of ITU and WHO, and hopefully once the standards are agreed on this, they're going to be accepted worldwide by the WHO. So it's a very important work for us. And we consciously work on high impact applications. So this is why we started with biomedical, where we can work in drug development, we can contribute to research and histopathology, so cancer research, and even in satellite imagery, work with Earth observation, which creates some positive impacts on human lives. Well, when I say we are quite a few now. We started as a company of 4. Now we are 15 and actively growing. Dotphoton's company background comes from both academia and industry. So we have a lot of partnership with research organizations in Europe. So those people, only a few of them are here. Majority of them are not obviously employees of the company, but they work on our projects, which is absolutely great because we believe that to get this AI, to bring this AI to the next, to scalability and and at the same time keep it reliable. You don't only need innovation or a fantastic technology that Dotphoton for sure has, but you need cooperation. You need to know how to work with others. You need to communicate. You need to agree, because this is the only way to move forward. The problem is today AI is very expensive technology. So we're sure, again, we hear about Googles and Facebooks using it, but smaller companies cannot afford it. So the big mission of Dotphoton is to allow other companies and everyone to start using AI without compromising on its results, on reliability, its performance. And yeah, so this is our challenge, and this is what we approach. And if it somehow is interesting for you, we are hiring for now a salesperson, for example, with scientific background. So you can contact us either on LinkedIn, either very simple address. It's my name at dotphoton.com, Eugenia at dotphoton.com. We'll be very glad to connect. And if you think you don't find the right position, but you think, well, that could be an interesting opportunity, please share with us your CV, and we will keep you in mind, and probably there's something that we can do together. So that's everything on my side. Thank you very much, and I'll be very glad to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, Eugenia. That was very interesting. I'm sure that there are plenty of questions, so let's open the floor.
I'd like to ask, I mean, I obviously understand that it's a proprietary format that you can sell to companies that do biomedical or maybe as you mentioned, microscope companies. But as someone that deals on this day-to-day job with images all the time, in particular with machine learning and so on, I mean, you use lots of tools that are open source developed and so on. And for this, it's nice to have something which is really mainstream. Are there any possibilities in the business model to make this kind of?
Yeah, absolutely. It's we actually don't. We do have our own proprietary format, but we don't sell our proprietary format. If you'd like to open a JetRo compressed image, it will be most probably in TIFF or DNG or any other open source format. So because compression, we use this. Manufacturers for format if we collaborate with them, right? Or our open source formats as a container for our compression, but they are completely compatible with workflows. And for example, today JetRo compressed images, they're more compatible with the biomedical workflows than JPEG 2000. So I totally agree with you. There is a whole range of raw formats, and we don't really need another one. Because it just makes everyone's life complicated. This is why we consciously decided to work with open source solutions, with manufacturer solutions that people are already using. So we don't need to create one more problem for them.
Mm. So hello everyone. So my name is Christoph. I was very quiet so far, but yes, I am the chief software architect at Dotphoton. I have the physics background and I have the CERN background, although I didn't spend much time at CERN. I was just a summer student in 2005. And so I think your question, Helge, if I remember correctly, has like two sides. So one is the one that Eugenia just replied to, and the other one is I sense a bit like, so is there a possibility to use this for free in any way? And so as Eugenia said, so we have this integration into all kinds of standards, open or not, and decompression is, our business model right now foresees that decompression is always for free, but compression is not. So for that you will have to actually buy a license, and also we do not open source our compression, neither the decompression right now, and this I mean this may change in the future, but right now this is just like the safest thing to do in terms of IP protection, because there is a fair risk, that somebody will just like pick up the open source and build their own products, which will then be in strong competition to ours, of course, because they do the same thing. And right now we just don't know how we would handle such a situation. We don't have the capacity in terms of manpower to compete with big.
And Jetro pricing is extremely friendly. So it means that you save a lot of money out of the storage budget straight away just by using it. That's not extremely expensive, and it's really a link to the amount of data you're going to process. So if you're not processing petabytes of data, you won't pay the same prices as people pay. So it's really volume based and the amount of camera based. So because we wanted to open the doors for as many users as possible with that, and we understand that in research sometimes, well, some have budgets and some don't, and they want it to be as affordable as possible.
May I ask a second question?
Sure.
Because we have a technical expert now also there. I was just wondering, like, does this software also help, like if you start with bigger images that you can find, maybe from a normal camera, and you just want to scale them down because your AI algorithm doesn't really need such a high resolution as 4,000 or 4,000 pixel, because your network can only handle 1,000 times 1,000 anyway as an input. Is there an advantage of this compression algorithm if you just scale already not raw images, but images that you take from a normal camera and then just resize it? Using and then storing the resized images with this kind of technology?
Mm-hmm. So there are advantages depending on like what you want to do after also. So I mean, there's different ways how you can change the dimensions of your image. The simplest is to just take every second pixel, and then if you want to be a bit more sophisticated, you probably start averaging, and then there's also, depending on the application, there's much more sophisticated things that you can do. So the thing that we always focus on is this metrological aspects. So if you have your initial raw image data, then there is an underlying noise model in particular, which comes from the hardware that took the image and the scene that you were actually imaging. And we do also, or we have in the pipeline, a tool set which does exactly also rescaling of the image and trying and simulating maybe different optics and so on, but always such that the output image is again following a very well-defined noise model, which is applicable to every pixel. So, and then with this noise model in hand, this means that this noise model actually gives you the uncertainties which can then be taken advantage of in further processing steps or in compression, which is what we do primarily right now. So if this will work better than in others than other downsampling methods, so I will not promise, because it depends very much on what you want to do afterwards when you use it, and maybe it will just be the same actually as other downsampling methods, except that we always update the noise model then also for the downsampled image, so that you can still be sure to do noise consistent processing then later on.
Where do you get the noise model from? Is it like somehow hardware specific, or do you extract it from an image that has been taken?
Yeah, so extracting the noise model from a single image can be done to some extent. It's not very reliable. So what we follow two lines. So like in the beginning, we were very much actually calibrating the cameras ourselves. So the customers, they would bring the camera to our lab, and we would do the calibration, which consists of like just taking lots of images under various conditions and doing statistical analysis to really find out like what is the like noise dependence or the dependence of signal to noise in this image data. So we still do that, but fortunately in the meantime we realized that there's the European Machine Vision Association, EMVA, who have released a standard which is called EMVA 1288, which exactly defines what camera specifications for machine vision should look like, and which measurements you should take to generate these specifications, and how you should analyze the data. And this agrees very well also with our methods. So if a device has such an EMVA compatible specification, then we can directly take the parameters from there and use them in the noise model.
That's very interesting. It's a word I've never thought about, even though I also work with images, but never thought about this So very interesting to hear. And I wanted to go a little bit more into the less technical part, but more to understand what you're looking for now as profiles. I think you said some salespersons, but can you say a little bit more about which profiles you're looking at for now and maybe in the future, and also location and this kind of
Yeah, so what I haven't mentioned is we're based in Zug, so not far from Zurich. Very nice office. I'm here, but it doesn't look like we have them because I'm sitting in the lab. But yeah, so we are based here, and we are looking for the current position that is open. We're looking for a person to join us in this Zug office. So the position officially is called sales manager, but it's not this person who would travel with a suitcase door to door or call and annoy people daily. We really need scientific background of understanding, because, well, the most important for us is to create awareness, to speak to more clients, to more potential clients, right? And to explain them well what we're doing, so they can take a conscious decision of buying or not buying JETRO afterwards. We look for the person exactly for this product, for JETRO. Software. So why a scientific background? Because of the client. So our clients are scientists, and if such a just salesperson without any scientific background, but with a very typical sales attitude comes to their office, they'll shut the door. So because this is not what they need. They need an explanation. They need some time spent with them. They need a presence at the conferences. So we do provide sales training if people don't have right background, but have a wish to do it and feel that they are fine. They're not afraid of taking the phone and making 10 calls or 50 calls per day sometimes, or writing emails to people they don't know. Normally scientists don't have this problem, to be honest. We don't see that. So for us, scientist goes first rather than the salesperson. So if the person would like to explore this position of business development and sales and this approach, we would be very glad to support the training. And we have a great sales team actually already now here who can be a great support.
Thank you very much for this presentation. Very interesting. I was just wondering, what is the typical workflow for a small research group or research company to try JETRO currently? So I get in touch with you. What's going next?
So you either get in touch with us, or you go on our website and download the demo version. Demo version works with the existing data set, because it needs to take the camera calibration into account. And if your data comes from different settings of the same, even the same, or from a different camera, that won't work. So it won't be a great experience, right? This is why the demo version would be for a data set which is provided. It's not we who acquired it, it's some academic partners. And you can give it a try and just see what it gives. So that's just for the very first thing, right? And then the next thing would be to learn whether your camera is supported already or not. So it means, and if your camera is supported, you can say, well, I'm very interested. What's how much does it cost? Yeah, this is, and we ask you some questions, what cameras do you have, what kind of systems, what kind of software do you use? And if we see that there are no red flags, it seems that there is a compatibility with your workflow, and we're pretty sure that there are no problems with it, which is the majority of cases. Then you most probably will be offered a couple of weeks trial for free. And then if you say, yeah, okay, that's working, or perfect, or I like it, then we just send you a bill, and that's all.
Okay, but you're in principle open for collaboration with small group, not with huge companies.
No, we have. I think half of our clients right now, and actually, why we're looking for a JETRO salesperson is exactly to work more with the smaller groups, because there are many of them, and they require more time, right? So if you speak about large institutions or large organizations, we're around 1,000 in the world, right? If we speak about biomedical labs, there are around 1 million the labs which have a microscope. There's a huge market there, but we just don't have enough people where someone would take full responsibility for this segment and work with the smaller groups. And we think it's absolutely crucial, again, to work with them, because everyone works with the big guys because they have money, but the success of AI analysis in imagery would come when everyone will start working, and can everyone afford working with AI.
Yeah, the question is about long-term plans for the company, because I understand you are still relatively small and young startup, right?
Yeah.
And for someone who is going to invest some money in the image processing technology, they would need to have some assurance that the technology would stay beyond several years.
Sure. That's one of the reasons, again, why we use open source formats and so on. So, on the 3D compressor, so even if something happens to us, they have people can have access to the technology. Second, well, obviously, that's not our plans, that's what happened. But we try to persuade, and we do persuade our clients that there are some legal ways to guarantee that if a startup goes bankrupt, it does happen, unfortunately. So sometimes that they will have access to the code. So that's kind of not the biggest problem today. Now we managed to persuade that okay, you can count on us. About our plans for the company. So if you look at our product roadmap, we started in 2018-19, right? So, and we started with we tried to solve the volume problem. Then we realized, okay, we solved the volume problem, but it's just a human mentality. When we would travel with film cameras many years ago, remember we would have like 36 shots, and it would be enough for a 2-week holiday. Now we take our iPhone with us and we come back with thousands of images, and the same thing happens everywhere. So because images become cheaper, they become smaller, people want to transfer them faster. So the second part of the problem was to make it faster. This is how JETRO was born. There's a next iteration, and our ambition is to move further. And what we want to do, we want to allow scalable AI-based analysis on the cloud. So that does involve obviously the data reduction, transfer speed, but it involves additional technologies that we are working on right now that allow you to create what we do, we call it metrologically accurate compression, and you can create metrologically accurate synthetic data. In practice, that means that today, for example, you have a car and you would like to acquire a data set of a given street. You need to drive this car once, and then, for example, with a different illumination, if you want to test the algorithm, you need to acquire the data again, and you need to annotate every time. You need to do all this tedious work every single time you acquire the data set. If you have metrologically accurate synthetic data, you can do it actually only once, and the rest simulate or emulate on the cloud, which hopefully will bring this scalability, but will not compromise on reliability and robustness of the data sets. So this is where we want to move forward. Starting already this year, we have some academic partnerships for now, so it's not yet a commercially available product, but we work with some large, especially biomedical companies or institutes like Charité Clinic in Germany, Fraunhofer, etc., and a little bit with the European Space Agency. So that's where we'd like to be. We'd like to solve this problem.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I have just one question, and you are free to answer or not. I suppose that your technology has dual application, civil and military. Do you work for military?
We don't.
Okay, thank you.
This is why I mentioned that we really the ESG profile of the company. We purposefully choose with which applications we work and who our clients are, and this is the main driver of the company. When we started Dotphoton, I was most proud of our technology. I would brag at every corner about how great our compression is. Today, I'm definitely most proud of Dotphoton's team, and the main driver for this team is to create a positive impact. So you can call us idealists or something, but this is why we're here, and this is why we're doing it. And military applications are not part of our agenda.
Whilst people are getting ready to see what questions they could ask, I have a question for you, if I may, please, Eugenia. Could you describe your recruitment process for us, please?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So normally, if I receive a CV, I look at it, and if it seems, that it just checks all the boxes. It's something, we received recently a CV from someone who was a funeral director. So obviously that will not move any further. But if you receive a CV, from a scientist or from a salesperson, commercial person whose background might be interesting for the company, then I show it to the relevant team. And then I said, well, we probably might be interested in this background. And then we organized first a screening interview, which is me, normally only, where I ask all kind of practical questions, just with the person, understand what they're looking for, what's their salary expectations, do they have the necessary documents, etc. And if that is there is a match, it seems that there is a match, then there's a longer interview with a relevant team. So it would be a sales team if it's a salesperson, it would be, if it's a scientist, then it would be R&D team for sure. And then normally we try to organize an in-person meeting if the person does this, this both interviews and all criteria match. And and then we try to hire as soon as we can. I should say though that we look for people with either a Swiss permit or either EU passport, because we are rather a small company and Zug has a lot of foreign companies. So there's a very small amount of quotas for people coming from, well, I don't like the word third countries, but unfortunately that's how they call the kind of rest of the world, they count us. So we don't have a lot of quotas here. This is quotas. This is why we just not to, so we will have to spend a lot of time. The person is going to spend a lot of time and they might get a rejection letter. So for now, we try to avoid it. And then we normally have, the person joins us. We have an onboarding week with the whole team where we try to really put the person up to date with everything we're doing. And it's not already the recruitment, but part of the work process. We try to work in I call it buddies. Even if you have one responsibility, you always need a buddy who would know, with whom you can just call and have a talk and discuss what you're doing, so to back you up emotionally or professionally. And I think that's extremely important. And what I haven't mentioned yet is that Dotphoton team for now is hybrid. So it means we have part of the team here in the office and part of the team in other European locations, but those are not our official offices yet. So this is why we are hiring in Switzerland right now.
Thank you. I was wondering, what the possibility was for people to work remotely, in fact, but you...
there are possibilities, but not for the position that we have currently open, because for a company, I think it's very important to have a home, So even if you work remotely, you have this home, office where you come every now and then, and just meet people. And I think, we really suffered through COVID when that wasn't possible. So for this position, the salesperson, it is we're looking for, to reinforce this home, to reinforce the home office. But for future positions, we have remote sometimes, especially in R&D.
Okay, great, thanks. And also, we saw that there was a position for a full stack developer.
Oh, that's been closed yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, I have to update it.
Okay.
But so anyway, we will need more developers, maybe not full stack developers in the near future. So we always very happy to accept just like what's it called, initiative application.
Spontaneous application. Absolutely, yes.
And so if you think you have a good background, so I mean, along those lines, I can maybe say that it's not so often that we are looking for scientists to do research. But there's like in such product development, there's a lot of pragmatic problems to solve. Like so, I don't know, with licensing and website and just things just works with different operating systems and hardware, and the user interface should be fine and fast and all such things. Like I always appreciate. If people can show that they have experience or at least a passion for those aspects of the system. Also, reliability is a very big question, and quality assurance and so on. So in particular for the developers, I think most scientists, and in particular most scientists at CERN, that they are writing code for their research, but there's a distinction between like production code and just the code that you do to analyze your stuff, and I at least want people to be aware of this distinction, when they apply for it.
And I wanted to add that we don't believe in perfect CVs. We believe in right background and willingness to work and learn. These are much more important. And so if you think, well, my CV is probably not perfect for this position because I don't have that, but I really would like to do this and I have like something else to offer, and I'm willing to learn, which is very important. We like that kind of candidates. We have a lot of people who joined Dotphoton who were struggling to find a job because probably their CV was not perfect. They came from another country, or they had to maternity leave for many years, something like this. And they are absolutely great contributors to the team right now. So this is how we really try to look at the person and willingness to learn, and just the background, which might be the right match.
Maybe just for curiosity, you mentioned that I tried to look at the webpage early on, and you said that it's all motivated by quantum physics. I couldn't work out how that works. And you mentioned the noise model, which I can kind of relate to, but I don't see the connection to the quantum physics at that point. Is that something you could quickly explain to?
Yeah, Christoph, I'll let you take this one.
So the thing is, when you talk to physicists, then quantum physics is actually a huge field, right? There's quantum physics in everything. But if you talk to non-physicists, then quantum physics is a very small field, and it's the stuff that only physicists know how to do. Now our inspiration comes from methods methods. So there's quantum optics, in particular quantum information processing, and it's really not much more than the processes of emission and absorption of light. So emission by the scene and then absorption by the sensor, and in particular then the statistical aspects that result from that. So very prominent is of course just the shot noise. Which is a very simple aspect of quantum physics, but it's there nevertheless. Then there's like other things like more in terms of like quantum information processing. So if you have a certain degree of noise or noise causing fluctuations, essentially, how do they affect the amount of information that you can process and store and transmit, and what would be the ideal ways to actually deal with this, and so on. So that's where the quantum physics background comes from.
Okay. Thank you very much, and also thank you for.
And we are a spin-off of the quantum physics group of the University of Geneva. So we're not, like the hair salons that are called quantum these days, and we're not this kind of guys.
Christoph, I have a question for you, because you were a summer student. You're actually a member of the alumni network. So I think people who are members of the alumni network can also contact you after today's virtual company showroom. But I wanted to ask you, do you find any similarities in what the atmosphere, the CERN atmosphere that you experienced, and what you experience now at Dotphoton, or any big differences?
So very, very good question. So as I said, so I was a summer student, and it was definitely the best summer of my life. It was back in 2005. There was like just so many energetic and fascinating people around, and it was also my first time to Geneva, which is a super beautiful location, and I mean everything was just like right, and there's lots of activities, both planned and spontaneous by everyone, what I still see in our company is just like the enthusiasm, I say, and also there's a certain degree of positiveness, for lack of better word. So in particular around Geneva and there among the summer students, I think actually it's a bit a cultural thing. So there was a lot of influence from the southern countries, like Spain, France, Italy, Switzerland, Greece to some extent, and they just bring a special kind of energy with them, and it's also like if I'm not saying that other countries they cannot be energetic. Of course, there's always very small person, but if you kind of like take the average, then I think there's a certain view of or perspective on life, and where it's tends to be a bit more pessimistic towards the east and north, and a bit more optimistic towards the south. And at Dotphoton, we definitely have the optimistic part, and you see this in the interactions between team members on a day-to-day basis, and that's definitely something which I appreciate very much.
So thank you for this talk, nice talk. So just that regarding this recruitment process, so what I understood, like currently or in near future, you are not looking for any new candidate because of this migration complication.
Exactly. So we look for people with Swiss residence permit,
Okay.
if they and work permit, like not L permit, for example. Yeah, that's
Okay.
Great. So I think if we don't have any more questions, I can say a very, very big thank you to Eugenia and Christoph for joining us today. And also thank you so much to all the participants who joined.